right, well, welcome. We have a handful of people in person, so it's a party. Please feel free to get donuts, drinks, walk about if you need to walk about. I teach freshmen, first semester freshmen every year at LSU Shreveport. I'm a biologist by training, so this little handful I can totally, there's nothing you guys can do that will be shocking. I'm excited to see the variety of potential grant writers in the group. I expected just solid artists, and so I was prepared and a little bit out of my realm as a biologist, but at LSU in Shreveport I work with all the faculty, and so we write grants for many different disciplines, from biomedical all the way to the literature and National Endowment for the Humanities, NSF, all kinds of things. So what I'm going to help you with today is just give you a little bit of information. Specifically, I just picked one of the opportunities that is offered on the Shreveport Regional Arts Council website. I think it gives us just a perspective to look at, to say, here are the elements that you would look for. You can apply it to any call for proposals. It's going to be using that as an example, but the information will be general enough to get you through. So let's see. You can go ahead. So at LSU in Shreveport, other than being a biologist by training, for the past 9-ish years, I've worked in academic affairs and sponsored research office. So I'm the grants officer for campus, in charge of research and compliance as well. All right, so the example that I chose for today is the ReGrant Project Assistance Grant that's on the Shreveport Regional Arts Council website. There are others. There's ones for programs, which might be applicable for some agencies more than others. But this is one that an artist or someone with a project would come into. So when you pull a call for proposals, it doesn't matter if it's this one or something from the NEH. When you look at it, you want to look for the deadline. How close is it? Because if it's a large grant, you're going to need considerable amount of time on the front end. So I would say if you are writing for something that's large, as soon as they post it and you can see it, that's when you need to start working on it. So I don't want to scare you, but on our big federal grant, so these are huge projects on campus, we would start 3 to 6 months out. But for something that's small, like on this project, with a little guidance, which you're going to get today, you could crack this out over a long weekend, no problem. So on this one, the deadline's coming up. It's important to make sure you know the deadline and are correct about the deadline. And if you're applying for something that's in a charitable foundation that's not here, make sure you know what time zone they're talking about, because that's going to be very disappointing if you miss it because they're on the East Coast and you're hitting Central. We don't want to do that. The other thing is to match the goals of the institution and what they're wanting to fund with your goals. If it's trying to shove a square peg in a round hole, it's just not going to fit. And they're going to see it a mile away. Good morning. They're going to see it a mile away that it doesn't fit. And so you want to stop at that moment and look for a better fit for you. And sometimes it takes showing that to someone else and saying, what do you think about this? Do you think this works? Getting a second opinion. Because I don't know about you, but I can convince myself everything's a great idea for a moment. And then look at the amount of funds that are available and then what the requirement is. So on this particular grant, you can ask for $1,000 all the way up to $7,500, but it's a 50-50 match. So I'm going to ask them for $1 and I have to put in my $1. And so if you don't have a base to pull from, that's going to be a challenge. This one does allow for in-kind support. So 50% of your match can be in kind, and we're going to talk more about what in kind is. So it's not a real dollar. 50 cents of that is in kind dollar that I'm already using. Okay, you can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so in this call for proposals, you would go to the website, you would pull open the call for proposals, and at the very top it has the deadline, how much you can ask for. And it tells you more about that, the requirement about the match. And notice that it says there is a restriction that you can only ask for one submission per grant call. And also it's to cover project-specific costs, artist fees, so you can pay an artist to come work and perform at your venue, whatever festival you're trying to do, if that's an example. It'll cover promotional materials, so if you're an artist putting on a show, it'll pay for flyers and posters for that, and production expenses of the event itself. You can go ahead. All right, so this slide talks more about that matching requirement that this project requires. And so remember, it's a 50-50 match. So for every dollar that I ask them for, I'm going to show a dollar that I'm providing to the project. So it shows buy-in on your part, that you're not just asking for free money. And then 50% of that can be in kind. They also don't want you to leverage one grant against another, so the match can't be from the other grant that they're offering. Again, they want your buy-in in hand. So notice when it says the in-kind can be the donated venue, so the rental expenses of the facility that you're using. Maybe you've just used that community center forever. But guess what? If they rented it to somebody, they'd be charging them. So if you can get something from them saying, if I rented you this, it would cost $1,500 for the afternoon, you can use that as your match. If you're doing printing, other design, that kind of thing, you can do that as an in-kind match. So what is that value worth? And if you're wondering, like, well, how much would that design fee be if I had to pay this? Just Google it. And do a regional. We're not asking for New York City prices, we're asking for Louisiana prices. Use that. Notice that in this specific one, there are some very specific details. So it says it cannot include artistic personnel. So we're not going to use their service as the in-kind. And then they have a specific example in their RFP. The request for proposals. Go ahead. All right, so one of the first things that I do when somebody brings me a grant call for proposals, or they say, hey, Amanda, I want to apply for this, I'm going to pull the packet and I'm going to look for the deadline and how much money we're looking at, and then I'm going to skip down to the criteria for evaluation, because if I read what I'm going to be scored on, I can write toward it. Because you don't want to start running down the highway and then get to the end and be like, oh, I should have written a paragraph about that. Okay, now it makes it harder. So these are the evaluation criteria. And I want you to look at the point values. When you get to a grant panel evaluation, I've served on many. I've served on one for this organization before, for the state LEH. I've done all kinds. When you get down to the end, points matter. It is a fine line between funded and not funded. So it's all in, every point counts. You can't just fluff it out in one of the sections. You've got to go in it to win it. So in the first category is about artistic merit. This is the category that has the least amount of description, but it has a lot of meat in here. So it's 30 points. When you see the other ones, you're going to be like, okay, no pressure. So the quality of the project, and you're thinking, how do they judge quality of the project? Well, it's going to be a panel of individuals who are evaluating, and the only thing that they're going to have to evaluate your project is what's in front of them. So you have to tell the story and tell it to a general audience. You cannot assume that everyone knows about what you do and your art form or what your intentions are or the vision in your mind. We work really hard to help faculty pull that, what do you see this, what does it look like? And then put that on the piece of paper, because it doesn't always translate easily. The second part, the participants. Keep in mind, you need to be writing for general public and access for all. And access for all is a big piece in the funding landscape right now. So if you have any barriers and restrictions on what it is that you're going to be doing with your project, you need to think, how can I open this up to these populations that I am limiting it? Maybe it's something that you would charge a door fee for. How is that going to be applicable to all? If your venue is someplace that's 21 and up, you've just wiped out a whole population. That's going to be frowned upon by grant reviewers, because they want that grant dollar to touch everyone in the community, or as many people in the community as they can. So participants are very important. Professional artists. And so when you read the call for proposals that Shreveport Regional Arts Council have, they make mention of professional artists. So we're not looking just to provide an art opportunity for children, we're engaging a professional artist with the children in the art opportunity. So pros. And so that will come back later when we're looking at credentials and basically saying, we've got this, we are the best at this, I can do this, we're so wonderful, and you'll make an argument that you're wonderful. Also, the benefit to either the discipline or the art form. So how is this going to not just keep the status quo? How is this moving this to the next level? How are we pushing it into something we've not done before? Go ahead. That's 30 points. That's a lot of points. Another big section, need and impact. So again, thinking back to that population that's served, what is the need? So we'll be looking at who we're serving, what is the demographic, our target demographic, how does that break out? Is it 30% kids? Are we looking at socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals? How are we pulling everybody into the table? And then there's more about that. So about the diversity of the group. And recently, our Institute for Nonprofit Administration and Research, we call INAR, at LSU Shreveport, they recently did a presentation for the Community Foundation, and they had infographics about what, if you took a subset of 100 people in this community, what does that look like? And so if you're looking at, what population am I serving? Do I not know who's in my community, who I'm serving? There's information out there that's a publicly available data set that's just released. So need and impact. What is the need? Who are you impacting? And so it's discipline specific about the need. Go ahead. Okay. 25 points for planning and design. Now, for someone like me, planning is like, oh yeah, watch out, here I go. I can plan this. Planning is very important. And a lot of times in arts and humanities, that's not the strong suit. People are creative. So you might need to pull somebody in to say, what are the logistics here? How am I going to get this done? You're like, I just want to do this festival. And we're going to be like, yeah, there's 75,000 steps that have to happen before you can put up your tent. And so having sincere planning into the grant is very impactful because it will show the grants panel they have thought about everything. They are ready to go. Let's write them a check. Because what a grant agency does not want to do is give you a check and then have you figure out how you're going to do it. That's a no-go. That will get you at the bottom of the list. So thinking about what it actually looks like in the finished product and then fleshing out all of the work. And don't be shy to put the process in there of what it's going to take. And then also keep in mind the marketing. How are you going to tell people what you're going to do? Even on a campus as large as ours, we have a full marketing team, and it's hard for me to get faculty to relay to the marketing team enough information early enough to do their job. And so as soon as you know you have the money and this is a go, you need to start building your base for letting people know this is happening, and not just that it's happening, but acknowledging your funder. The worst thing you can do as a grant recipient is to not fully thank and appreciate your funding source by putting it right there on everything. The flyer, the emails, the Facebook messages. This project proudly supported by blah, 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 blah. It is a requirement. We don't get a dollar that we don't acknowledge fully. And it's usually part of the grant contract as well. Go ahead. So that's 25 points, planning a design. I think that's an easy 25 points if you're organized. And then 15 points for administration and budget. So budget is looking at the actual dollars. So what is it that I'm asking for? Just because $7,500 is available, do you need $7,500 to do what you want to do? Don't pad the budget just to max out, because that might price you out of a grant award.
And this would be you would have to answer.
Correct. Yes, good point. So keep in mind the budget and what you're going to spend money on. That's one of the most road-stopping moments with a faculty member at LSU in Shreveport when they come to my desk and they're like, Amanda, this grant, $500,000. I'm like, absolutely, let's write. And then I'll say, okay, what are you going to spend money on? And they have a short list. And I said, okay, how much money is that? And then they do the math. They're like, that's not $500,000. I'm like, no, it's not. We don't need to jump here when we can jump here. We're making ourselves more competitive by being realistic about what our needs are and how we're going to spend the money. Because if you start padding a budget, you are inviting trouble into your world, because then you're going to have to spend it once you get it, and that's difficult because there are real rules that mean something about grant dollars, and people get themselves in a lot of trouble by working in a gray area. There's no gray area in a grants budget. So the match, if you put something that's in kind, keep in mind you're going to have to certify that that is a real in-kind match. This is not imaginary. So if you can't get someone to write a letter or print something out that says this fee would cost this much if I contracted this out, stay away from it. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Because if there is an audit to your grant expenditures, you will have to show your in-kind. And then cash match is usually easier because you have accounting as nonprofits, right? Or individuals. Also, this part is going to look at how you're going to administer the project and the budget. So talking about controls of your funds, you have a board, maybe you have a board, maybe you don't, that you've thought about all of these pieces of the fiscal part. Important. And then the last bullet there about evaluation. So evaluation is not about the actual budgeting of it. Evaluation is how do you know your project is successful? And this is huge. Agencies want to know, how are you going to tell me that this project was successful in reaching all of those people that you just said you were going to reach? And sometimes this can be really hard if you're doing something that's like a public venue. You can count people who go by. That's a number. You can count that. You can do a survey. You could do like a QR code with like a little participation survey. Anything that you can document their experience, not just head count, but if you're looking for eliciting a certain response, like a change in a community's opinion about something through this experience, you could do a little pre-survey and a little post-survey, and then bam, you've got it, and your granting agency is gonna do a little high kick enjoy of all of this very good information that you've gained for them. Next. Okay, so we're gonna hold right there. Let's see. I was kind of thinking something else. I'm gonna show you some questions that will spur writing to help you flesh it out. And then some tips at the end. And then at that point, we'll pause, and as the local group here, we can kind of work more in depth. So we're gonna just buzz through these. Go ahead. So the first question, what are we asking for money for? Everybody thinks money's good. I don't say no to money. But what are we actually gonna do with it? That's the first pivotal part. Go ahead, we'll come back to these later. So in this call for proposals, the other piece in a call for proposals that will limit what you get money for is what they're willing to give you money for, right? And so this list is extensive. So if I were writing for this project, I would write, what do I want money for? And then I would go down this list and make sure that it's not on there, right? It's 2 pages. So fitting it in the project period, that is a huge one people have problems with. You cannot spend money outside of the project period. If you do, you've spent your money, not the grant money. Very important. Notice the end dates on these. It's a summer end date, very traditional. If you have an invoice that is out that has not been paid, it's your money after the 31st. Typically very strict guidelines, and those will be in the funding contracts. If you get a grant, they will tell you what that period is, and be super mindful of it. Don't plan your project to be on July 31st. Back it up. Back it up. All right, so there's a whole list. I'm not going to go through it. Go next. There's a second list. Some of these will challenge you, right? So notice that it says food or beverages for hospitality or entertainment functions. You're not buying cookies for anybody. You can donate cookies as part of your in-kind, but they're not buying you cookies. It's a big one. Go ahead. So once you've said, here's what I want to do with the money, then you'll think about the actual cost. So that's different from, I'm going to put on an art show. If you're going to put on an art show, what is the actual breakdown of the expenditures? Do I have to rent a venue? Do I have to rent the tables and the easels and the light? What do I have to do? If I'm an artist, what does that look like? Do I have all of my supplies on there? And am I making a reasonable guess about how much that's going to cost? Again, 10% difference. Pad it up 10%. Don't go any higher than that. You don't want to ask for twice what you think it's going to cost, because then you're going to be stuck with $1,000 and you've got $500 worth of expenses, and then you've got to explain to the agency, well, either I'm leaving this unexpended or can I do a rebudget? And rebudgets are sometimes allowable. Sometimes there's a rule. Some of our federal grants, you can go 10% as long as it's within existing categories. But anything other than that, you have to write and ask and justify. And they don't like it because that's paperwork for them. So be a good grant recipient. Spend your money in your category and don't get crazy. Because if you spend it on things that aren't in your categories, they will notice when you turn in your final report. And that does not go well. They'll either ask for money back, which is never fun, or you'll get a poor evaluation, which will affect continual funding. All right, go ahead. The match. So again, look at what they say you can use for match on their grants for Arts Council. It's very well laid out. Yes, no. When in doubt, ask, and ask well ahead of time. They don't want to be asking this question the day before it's due. Go ahead. Think about where it's going to take place. Again, that you're offering to a general audience. If you're looking to support arts in the community and you have it at a bar or someplace else, that takes out everyone under 21, which is not to the purpose, and you're not going to be favored in the grants panel. So the limitations and the project itself. Go ahead. Impact. Remember all those impact points, that 30 points? What is your impact to the public? What kind of experience do you want to engage? What kind of benefit to the community? And then just brainstorm it, write it out. Also, look at that demographic of your target audience. How many people? What does that population look like? And this is something that's important because we want to serve as many people as we can with the public good and $1. Go ahead. And then the evaluation piece. So how do you know it was successful? So think about, what can I do to monitor this is good, this is a success or not? It's going to help you with your grant report at the end of the fiscal year. It's going to help you with getting more grant funds the next time, maybe bigger grant funds from somewhere. And so this is project evaluation. And if you get to a stalemate in it, just go to the internet, say project evaluation for, and then put your type of project in there. And it will give you all kinds of ideas. We don't reinvent the wheel. We're not going to just take their idea, but we're going to get the idea and we're going to make it applicable for what we're doing. All right, so here's some tips. One of the tips I didn't put on here is to be succinct. If you know you're a wordy person, and I am married to one, sorry, he can write 3 pages and all I need is a paragraph. Be succinct. Tell what it is, go in, tell it, tell all the things that you think are important, because remember, that's the only piece of information that they're going to have, and the only interaction with you that they're going to have. So you want to make sure that it's succinct, it's not super wordy. You get in, you get to the point, make the big sell. It's the elevator pitch in a grant proposal like this. So you're stuck in the elevator with somebody for 3 minutes. That could be your hit or miss. Also, if you need a letter of support from someone, or if you're working in a school and you need access to the school, you have to have a letter saying that they give you access, and that if you're getting a letter of support from someone. Ask for those ahead of time. People don't like to be rushed, and they won't be a good partner with you if they feel like you're hounding them because it's your emergency because you waited too long. So ask early, and have a good partnership. Also, this is something I'm not familiar with, but the Culturalist directory, if you are an artist and you are applying for this specific grant, you need to have a profile on that. And so set that up ahead of time. You do not want to be doing that the minute that, 2 hours before this is due. You are programming anxiety into your experience. Submit examples of your work if you're an artist, or if you're putting on something that you've done before. Show them what it looks like, how it's going to be. So if you have photos of a previous festival that you're putting on or of your work, also keep in mind that it may be a general audience. So when I sit a grant panel, I appreciate the arts, but I don't know technical terms, and so I need to see what it looks like to fully evaluate and to appreciate what you're doing. So keep in mind that it may be a general audience. We know what we like, and we know what's good, but we just might not understand it from if you leave out information. Also, don't be hesitant to use some online tools. So we have free online writing tools like Grammarly. There's a couple of others that have free things. Also, AI is Grammarly uses AI as well. AI can be helpful, but don't just copy and paste. You want to take it and process it for you, how you want it to sound in your tone. Those of us who work with a lot of writing can spot an AI written document pretty easy, and we judge. Sorry. So use it to help you, as we should, yes, thank you. Use it to help clean up the writing, give you ideas, but don't ever just pull and stick, because it's doing you a disservice, because the human element, especially when you're in arts and humanities, is what we're looking for, right? But it helps, especially if you're wordy. Make this more concise. Grammar, fix the grammar. Make sure that it's, as an arts community, maybe writing's not your strong suit. Well, we've got tech that can help with that. So, and then make sure you fully show the plan. So not just how you're gonna do the thing, but how you're gonna tell people about the thing. Not just on the front side, where you're advertising your show or whatever it is, but how are you going to tell people how successful that was? So putting pictures up later, I'm gonna post seven social media posts on 3 different platforms. The day of, I'm gonna do it 3 days later to thank our sponsors. That you've put a real thought process into telling everyone about this and acknowledging your funding source, right? Okay, go ahead. For bigger projects, one of the things that I learned in a grant writing workshop that I paid, that the university paid money to send me to. And since then, I've used it over and over and over. We have great success with it. Now, if you have a very small project, this might be too much. But if you have something large, please feel free to utilize this model. So this model uses a single goal. So I want to improve X in Northwest Louisiana. So we're telling what we want to do, and we're saying our population that we're going to do it in. That's our one big goal. And then our objectives are going to be smaller pieces of that. So how do you get to your goal? And so you break that into small chunks, your objectives. And then each of those objectives is going to have tasks associated with them. And then each of those objectives is going to have a performance measure. So that's that, how do we know we're successful piece. So maybe your project is very simple and it's just one objective, one goal, one objective to make it happen. Then you just have your task, which would be your, planning, set up, execute the event, and then your performance measure. And you can have multiple performance measures per objective, but you want to have at least one. So we usually say 3 to 5 performance measures with each one. And something beyond the head count is always helpful. Head counts are great, but if you know a little bit more, so in that head count, what did the population that came look like? That's helpful. Also, if you can come up with some kind of way to capture their experience from that programming, that's helpful as well. Okay. Well, thank you for your attention today, and thank you to our online group as well.